Peace, family. This is your boy Gerald. It is Thursday, February 7th, 2020. How are you doing? We've got an overcast skies, partly cloudy, and the storms have come through. We are preemptively in the winds of change. And I would be remiss not to put this out. You know, my life has always been what you see is what you get. And I've always tried to hold to what was instilled in me as a little boy about ethics and integrity, standing on your foundation, for that is what builds and exemplifies your character, who you are. But every now and then, when we think we have everything figured out, when we think the task has been completed, or possibly the work is done, there are always precepts to remind you not only you're a spiritual being first, mortal being second. And the collective of how everything intertwines and why it's so important to take your life for granted. See, this morning, family, I started my day about 4:15, about 4:15-ish. And I heard Tyson barking. And normally they have a sleep schedule. They're normally up about 5 after 6. But this seemed a little different. So I got up and I went to check on him. And beknownst to me, he had an accident in his kennel. Not having my faculties together, I overreacted and I chastised him. Because he and I have a symbiotic relationship that goes beyond words. And I was very stern. And I told him, you know better. Why'd you do that? And I ushered him out the door because I have a sunroom. As I'm trying to take care of the mess that he had made, trying to keep my bearing and trying to clean it up and sterilize it because that's his home. That's where he rests, in his kennel. I didn't realize that where I'm at, I have a lot of foliage, as you've seen the backyard area is very large. And with that, you have wildlife. make a long story short, as I'm focusing on cleaning up his area, I know how long it takes for him to go use the restroom, get himself together, and come back. And then I started to realize that something was off. And I got up from what I was doing and went after him, only to find out he was gone. Now, there had been a handful of times where I had been caught off guard where he wasn't where he should have been because I have a huge yard and he wasn't there. And I called and I called and I called. Mind you, it's 4:35, quarter to 5 in the morning. Dark, windy, rain coming down, all the elements of what you don't want to deal with. I'm starting to worry. I don't know where he is. So I quickly throw something on, I jump in the Jeep, and I proceed to drive through the neighborhood, hoping that he would pop up out of someone's yard or I would see him because he's a white dog. I drove around and I drove around and I drove around and I came back, left out again, drove around and drove around, looking, hoping that he would turn up, to no avail. And with much reluctancy, I came back home. I had already made some coffee, trying to put the pieces together of what transpired to motivate him to leave. And then I saw all these rabbits because there's a bunch of rabbits around. And then it clicked. He saw a rabbit, he went to chase it by instinct, only to be out of his element. And then the fear started to set in because now it's going on 5 o'clock and you have a lot of people that start their day. And we all know by instinct we go to work, but our faculties might not set in until we've had that morning coffee or that morning routine is kicked in. Still to no avail, I couldn't find it. Slowly but surely, trying to keep the logic and not panic, I got to a point where my companion came out and she could see the look in my eyes, trying to be stern within my emotions, trying to figure it out, knowing time is not on my side. Because the truth of the matter may have been that my loyal companion wasn't mine no more. Trying to come up with a plan of how I was going to deal, I said, well, if he doesn't surface by now, the possibilities of me seeing him again is dwindling. Because where I live at, there the city compound, that's where the animal control is. And after so many, I think it's a week, they put them down. And every Tuesday in the wee hours, they get rid of the body. I'm human, family. The thoughts of me, he's been in my life for 6 years. And the irony of is the whole thing was how he came into my life. I didn't ask for him. I opened my heart up to him because when I met my companion, he showed up by way of her son, and she didn't want it, so he was going to go to the panel. And instead of letting that be his fate, I opened up my heart and said, "Let me take it." Didn't have a clue. I took on a responsibility. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I didn't spent. But I've learned so much through him. And the last thing she said before she went out to work, and it was the tip of the iceberg. She said, "Why don't you just pray on it?" And that was like a knife cutting through my soul because, family, you don't get to see me on a day to day, but I can tell you the person that you see on the screen is the same person when the camera's not off. And I stand on my faith. And one of my biggest, if there had to be a downfall, was my heart, which is kind of ironic that New Year's Eve, what happened? Issue with my heart. And I always used to joke with myself and say, well, if something was, if my life was ever to come to an end, it was because I had too much scar tissue on my heart from everything I've gone through, loving too much, not loving myself, allowing my kindness to be misinterpreted as a weakness. And when she said that, I broke down. I broke down and I cried, standing in my yard, 5:10 in the morning, because it had been raining all night, soggy. I didn't even care. And the tears just came out. And I could not stop crying for at least a good 30 minutes. I couldn't because the one thing I realized about Tyson is so much of me and him. And I see a lot of his behaviors were one and the same. All we ever wanted to do is be loved, be loyal, and have a happy life. I couldn't see life without him. And I remember when I was in my apartment, I've mentioned this before. I remember one time I used to take him out where I would let him use the restroom because there was foliage there. And I mentioned the last couple videos that one of the things I used to do, after I burned my sage, I would always go out to the patio and tie into nature and listen to nature, and I would pray because prayers must go up so blessings come down. It took about an hour for me to finally get myself together. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm a man, and I'm gonna tell you what, Queens. If you got a significant a husband, significant other, whatever you call him, if he's not in tune with his emotions, he will never be in tune with you because he doesn't know himself. So how can you build anything with someone that doesn't know where they're going? That's why they call it the emotional roller coaster, because it's just a ride. The ride only serves one: amusement and distraction. But your life is an experience to the right people, the chosen people. That's why I always convey, look at your environment and look at who you surround yourself, or better yet, who you give your time to, because you are the gift. But whatever's found in your mind will make your reality. So to go back, now it's an hour and 20 has passed. 6:30, 6:35. I jump back in the Jeep. Back out. And before I do, I pray. Well, let me back up. Before I got back in the Jeep, she had already left. I'm standing in front of my garage, and I say, Lord, I will always stand before you in bended knee, and whatever you decide of me it is your will. Because at the end of the day, you created me. And if it's your will that he's not there, I had to come to accept it. You know, I'm being transparent now because that's all I can be. But I just want you guys to know that no matter what, no matter what you're faced, you got to fight for your life. You got to fight for your dreams because you can't you can't just leave it up to hope. It's gonna require work. and it's going to require truth. And that truth is for yourself. Nobody else. Nobody else. Just like nobody can make you change. If you're going through something right now, admit it to yourself. Admit you got something going on and you want a different approach. You want a different outcome. Because as long as you keep denial in front of it, you'll never have your happiness. You'll be holding your dreams hostage and you'll be killing yourself slow. So I prayed and I made peace. I was like, Lord, your will be done. I got in the Jeep, backed out, and I just decided to start the route that I did. I did for like 10 times prior. And fam, I came out of my street and went straight across. And when I got to the end, there he was. People had him on his leash. He's just sitting there like, what? And I pulled over. I jumped out and I cried because you got some malicious people in this world, family, that because they refuse to admit to themselves that their life as they know it ain't working, or what they believe, what other people approval is how it is, and they miserable. They're struggling in silence, or worse, they don't want to take accountability for choices made. They don't want to own it. Nothing good comes out of that. So I got out and he looked at me and he immediately sat down. Then his ears dropped because he knew he was in trouble. He knew. And like I said, the tears was just flowing. I thanked the people that were there. And I know that was God working through those people. I know that because he's a pit. I have two pits. And instinctively, because of the reputation of that breed, we always assume the worst. But truth be told, the most vicious canine that you'll ever come in contact is a Chihuahua or a Dutchland Hound, better known as a sausage dog. Those are the most vicious. But the companion one will only react as an image of its handler. It's a mirror. It's a mirror of its environment, which is the same thing with life. A person is going to react to the environment that it's been reared in until it's shown another option. Or what is perceived as comfort, security, and love. So I put him in the Jeep. When I opened the door, he jumped right up in there. But he was hesitant to get back. When I went back to the house, he didn't want to get out of the Jeep because he knew he was in trouble. He knew it. I grabbed him by his collar and kind of yoked him down. And then he sat there by my feet, like, I know I'm in trouble. I know it. I know it. I didn't even yell because I was just so glad he was home. Because easily someone could have hit him. Someone could have turned him into the local animal control just out of spite. Just out of spite. Now, at the end of the day, it's no one else's responsibility. It's mine. And I own that. So I got to do some strategizing so that that doesn't happen again. So this brings me to this video right here, because the point I'm trying to make is sometimes when things seem out of your control and it seems like you just can't catch a break, it seems like things tend to just keep piling on and piling on and piling on to test your fortitude, to see your strength. I like to believe it's at that one moment when you decide to just let it go, allow God to be in your heart, to see you for who you really are. Because you can fool them. You can fool your audience, but you can't fool the person in the mirror that greets you every morning, that sees you when you close your eyes, your reflection. Can't fool you, but you can always grow. And I also believe that that's how God knows, because He doesn't care about what comes out of our mouths. He doesn't care about what we possess and who we know. He validates that from what's found inside us. I mean, think of it this way. Everybody is given an opportunity, and you possess different talents and gifts. But we're the only ones that can nurture and offer that to the world in the intended time. And I really think that's the reason why in doctrine, the one thing always echoed was to thyself be true. But how can you truly be true to yourself if you don't know yourself? And if you don't know yourself, how can you feel secure in what you see and where you're going, or what you allow access to you? So I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful, because this could have turned, I don't even want to think about it. So when I brought him home, got myself together, gave thanks, and I made sure he got the best bath. That oh yeah, we squeaky clean. And then after he was done, I went grabbed Ming, who Ming is solid. He's the baby, but Ming's got to be every bit of easy 60 pounds and nothing but a diva. You wouldn't know it if you saw him because he's solid. So I had to make sure he was good to go too. Well, not to be winded, family. All I'm trying to say to you is this: no matter what is being shown, no matter what you're going through, it will pass, and the outcome will be as it's supposed to be. The question for you is how you're going to deal with it, because that will predetermine how everything else will be played out, like a proverbial ripple effect. I want to thank you for just taking the time to allow me to share this. And just know God loves you more than you could ever imagine. But it will never resonate until you decide to love yourself. And if you're in an environment where they look at that aspect as weak, that's not the environment you should be in to begin with, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be loving you. So don't shortchange yourself. And just know the moment that you decide to come to terms with that, put that work in, your foundation will be stronger. And guess what it will do? It will open the door of everything that you were in, predetermined to inherit by your birthright. What I mean by your birthright, the moment you took your first breath, your lifeline was already revealed. The ups, the downs, the plateaus, it was already revealed. And I feel remiss not to say this too to some, because this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. You might be struggling with family issues, or you may be a parent that you haven't you're struggling with the relationship with your children. My message to you is this: as long as you know you're doing the best you can, authentically, authentically, you rest your hat on that. Because what'll end up happening, eventually they will see it for themselves, because they'll unfortunately have to go through some things. But sometimes we go through things to see how bad we really want it. So you want to heal your relationship with your children? Heal the relationship with yourself. Because you might not realize this may be generational. And when you look back at your life and look at what you went through your experience, you may see certain nuances too. But as long as you got air in your lungs, you got enough, you have time to turn it around. But you can't turn around nothing until you acknowledge Acknowledge what needs to be healed. And watch. When you get there, you'll be smiling. You'll be smiling because then you'll know what peace is about and what it feels to be whole. And tell me again you don't deserve that. Tell me again you don't. You do. So let's put the work in, right? Thank you. Be blessed.